Thousands of people spent hours walking home, many with no real idea of what was going on. 24 hours later, it still wasn't clear what had caused the biggest power failure in U.S. history. And it took well over a day for authorities to restore power to all parts of the city. And that completes our review of the week's news.
In the next hour, Sunday Report, Canada's national news program. That's followed by Special Assignment with Bill Cunningham.
Tonight, critical stage.
We are still not generating power at our normal capacity.
Power's on, but will it last when the work week begins? We'll look at the big test ahead for Ontario, and we'll talk to the Premier, Ernie Eves. The politics of power. When the electricity died, it put the spotlight on all levels of government. And conservation concerns. People are being asked to save energy and water. How are they responding?
CBC News Sunday Report with Carol McNeil.
Good evening, everyone. The lights are on and many people are home. Now the question is, should they stay there? Tomorrow is the start of the work week, the first big test of the power grid since the gigantic blackout hit Ontario. Tonight, the Premier gave a province-wide address, warning people to cut back to help a system under terrible strain. The CBC's Beatrice Politi has the latest.
They've been sitting idle for 3 days, but tomorrow they'll be rolling again.
The subway will be running tomorrow. There's no doubt about it. The streetcars will be running tomorrow. The TTC is ready to manage any possible problems.
Good news for those heading back to work.
We have now the best assurance under the circumstances that Toronto Hydro will continually feed the 40 substations that are integral to the subway system.
But it won't be business as usual.
Tomorrow, Monday, the provincial, federal, and some municipal governments will be operating essential services only. If you work for the government, unless you are an essential service employee, please remain at home.
Essential means medical and emergency services, courthouses, and some licensing offices. In Ottawa, a similar message for government employees.
And in keeping with the provincial request, except for essential services, city and federal government employees are being asked to remain off the job tomorrow until further notice.
And what about private business?
We are asking all businesses, large and small, to reduce their power consumption by 50%. Employers will have to judge how to achieve this target. It might mean changing shifts, reducing services, or in some cases, closing altogether.
The province says large industry, including steel makers and auto manufacturers, have agreed. Some petroleum companies are even asking consumers to hold off on filling up to reduce the demand on refineries. The government says all workers should be calling ahead to see if they have to head in tomorrow. But these workers say, as far as they know, it'll be a regular workday.
I work in the mental health field, so I'll be going in to see clients.
It'll probably be business as usual.
And if you're planning on flying in or out of Toronto's busiest airport, officials say the backlog has cleared and flights are taking off on schedule. But the province stresses rolling blackouts are still a possibility. No chance, though, it says, of the dramatic outages of Thursday and Friday. Critics agree the main priority is keeping the power on, but they say the government has a lot to answer for.
But in the longer term, it should learn a very painful lesson from this experience. It has been asleep at the switch during the course of the past 8 years when it comes to ensuring that we've got a reliable supply of affordable electricity.
The province says it does have enough power, and it promises in the future to have more than enough.
My goal is to make Ontario self-reliant in electricity. Our plan includes the expansion of supply, tax incentives for new, clean generation.
This week will be critical. The government is depending on the goodwill of business and citizens to keep a system still fragile from collapsing again. Beatrice Politi, CBC News, Toronto.
Joining me to talk about the ongoing crisis, the Premier of Ontario, Ernie Eves. Premier Eves, you've made a plea to businesses and consumers to conserve. What if they don't?
Well, so far, Carol, the business community and by the population at large have been extremely good in cooperating. And we have had literally people on the phone all weekend talking to different sectors in the business community, their associations, in many cases for big users, directly to them themselves, the auto manufacturers, for example, the steel industry. And I must say that we have yet, I believe, to have a person say that they were not going to cooperate. So I prefer to keep the economy of the province going, and everybody can just do their share, and if everybody does their fair share, we'll have enough power.
How will you monitor that?
Well, it's pretty easy to monitor in terms of what the hourly usage is, or minutely, as I've become accustomed to in the last few days. We do have enough capacity if everybody shares in the load and reduces what they use about 50%.
As I understand it, for those who don't comply, the independent electricity market operator has the ability to shut off power to businesses who are not cooperating with you.
Well, I leave that to them. We don't think that will be necessary, but later in this week, if the weather reports are correct, it's supposed to get even warmer. So we will need the cooperation of the business community right through the week.
You say you have plans to expand the supply and to make Ontario self-sufficient, but yet you say Ontario is self-sufficient now.
Well, we are self-sufficient, but you should have a reserve. We have probably, depending on the day, anywhere from a 10 to about a 20-25% reserve capacity now. But because you have units, as I said earlier, down for maintenance, you have unexpected maintenance problems from time to time, you have extra demand from time to time, you really should have a bigger reserve, and we are working towards that.
Let me ask you this, the connection. You say it did not have anything to do with Ontario's supply, yet you make the promise to expand the supply and be totally self-sufficient. How would expanding the supply prevent what happened here?
Well, we have to do two things. We have to be self-sufficient. We are self-sufficient, but we have to have a bigger cushion, if you will. And number two, we have to make sure that if it's technologically possible, that we prevent this from happening again, not just having a protocol in place. I mean, we've all learned something from this. When I was out at the IMO this afternoon, the officials told me that, this system works day in and day out, has for 38 years, the protocol system, which is why they were so shocked that it didn't work in this particular instance, because it has worked day in and day out. They said this is a routine event, goes on many times during the course of every single day, where somebody within the grid has a particular problem. It may seem like a small one at the time, but they're required to immediately notify all the others immediately. And in this case, for some reason, that did not happen.
When do you expect everything to be fully back online?
Well, that depends on a couple of factors. It depends on how soon the experts can get the generators that are down, especially the nuclear ones, back up and running. There's varying, they don't all come back at the same time, nor could they be put in the system at the same time. But we expect a week in some cases, days in others. So we have a tough week ahead of us with the hot weather, and barring any unforeseen problems in getting these units back up and running, we're looking at least a week of conservation in the province.
Premier Eves, the opposition has made much of this, saying your policies have contributed to this problem. What do you think the political fallout is going to be for you who's facing an election shortly?
Well, I'm not thinking about politics right now, Carol. I don't expect the critics and opposition parties to be complimentary. That goes with the territory. But my time, literally, since last Thursday at about 4:12 or 4:15 p.m. has been 100% dedicated to trying to get our system back up and running as quickly as we can to full capacity. And I want to say this, the people of Ontario have been remarkable through this challenge. They have helped each other, as I said in my statement. They continue to conserve, and the cooperation we've received today by phone from business, both large and small, is actually quite heartening. It speaks to who we are as Ontarians and Canadians.
All right. Premier Eves, thank you so much.
Thank you, Carol.
Here's something you don't often hear, an admission from government that it didn't do as well as it should have. The federal government is going to take a good hard look at one aspect of its handling of the blackout. Carolyn Dunn now on Ottawa's communication